All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. It's great to see these faces here today. I think that in the state of Illinois, sometimes we feel kind of isolated when you look at your state government and you are like, who are these people and how did they get here and why is this state going in the direction it's going? So being able to come to events like this and to be with one another, I mean, as voters, as constituents, and taxpayers, you are the most important people in this room today. And it's important to understand that the reason we can assemble and have a town hall like this is because of you. Not anybody up here whose name you might have heard before. They're here to listen to you and talk to you and answer to you. That's what good government is. That's what American government is. So thank you very much for coming today. My name is Annie Fry. Thank you. You might not have heard of me. I have a radio show in St. Louis, Missouri, which is a little tormenting because I cross the Mississippi over to the land of what seems like taxpayer freedom every day. And I talk about state laws in Missouri and I talk about state laws in Illinois. And the one thing that I get asked, I'm not kidding, almost every single day is, why don't you just leave? And you've probably had that thought before. You've probably been asked that question before. And my answer is always, it's my home. The reason I stay is because it's home. And if we are going to come together today to do anything, it's to protect our home and to fight for what is right in our home. And I know when I'm talking on the radio in St. Louis, Missouri, and half of my audience is in Missouri, and I say, hey, guess what? They want tax rain now. They all laugh and go, why don't you just leave? And you hear these stories over and over and over again, and I share every single one of them, and some of it seems a bit oppressive to people who don't live in the state of Illinois. They think it's a joke, but it is our lives. It's our livelihood. It's where we're raising our children. I have 3 children myself. My husband's a public school teacher. I'm in it deep. And so I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for considering showing up to as many events like this as you possibly can. Thank all the government officials and the people here who are fighting for your First Amendments, your Second Amendments, the right to life. Those are the issues that we need to fight for. And if we lose another race in this state, it better be because we ran as real Republicans on real conservative principles going forward. No more, this is the best we can get. And it starts today. So with that, the right way to start anything, we're going to open with prayer. I'd like to welcome Pastor Miles Holmes up here for the opening.
Thank you, Annie. I didn't even know Annie Fry was going to be here today. I would have left earlier. She is a national treasure. Let's give it up one more time for Annie Fry. Would you stand and pray? Heavenly Father, we come to you this afternoon in the mighty name of our Savior and our Lord Jesus Christ. We thank you that your word says, the righteous are as bold as a lion. So help us today, oh God, to raise a mighty roar because we are on the side of the right, the side of the truth, the side of morality, the side of decency and common sense. Bless us today, Lord, as we partner together and we learn together and we are stirred together to go out from this place and be a stronger voice and more articulate in standing for the truth and standing for the right. We pray that you'd help us to live in such a way that our neighbors know that we are those who come, that your kingdom might come and your will may be done in our lives and in our communities, in the state and in this great nation of America. We pray this in the name of Jesus. And everybody said, Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Don't sit down yet. Because the next most important thing we are going to do now is we are going to do our national anthem and the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to welcome Kurt Luderman here. He's from Findlay, Illinois, and he is going to do us the honor of leading the national anthem and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight
What a wonderful job. Thank you so much, Kurt. First person I'm going to welcome here to the podium is the State's Attorney, Jay Scott. Jay's going to come up here and speak to you as the Chief Law Enforcement Officer for Macon County. And he's going to talk to you about SB 107. Anybody here know SB 107, familiar with it? Make you a little uncomfortable? Jay Scott, please come.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I'd like to thank Dan Calkins for inviting me to come here this afternoon. Thank all of you for being here as well. I apologize, I'm not going to be able to stay. My two youngest boys that are in the back have a service project for the senior citizens at our church, so we're going to have to head out. I began my career in law enforcement 32 years ago this week, and I swore an oath at that time to support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Illinois, both of which guarantee us the right to keep and bear arms. And I think after 32 years working in law enforcement day in, day out, that I'm in a pretty good position to tell anybody who will listen what the effect of gun laws do. And it's who's the problem with gun violence? It's not the law-abiding citizen. And no matter what laws you pass dealing with guns, no matter how harsh you make the penalties, criminals are going to ignore them, and the only people who suffer are the law-abiding citizens. We've got a lot of bad laws proposed in Springfield. The one that was just mentioned is one of them. It calls for banning certain types of firearms, for outlawing high-capacity magazines, and then you have to register them if you're going to keep them, and we all know what that leads to. In my view, these laws are unconstitutional, and they will not be supported here in Macon County. They're unconstitutional. They infringe on our rights under the Constitution to keep and bear arms, and they infringe on our God-given rights to defend ourselves and our loved ones from violent criminals. So I'm making the pledge to you today that if these laws pass, I hope they don't, this one and other ones that are in the pipeline pass, that they will not be enforced in Macon County. We will not use them to go after law-abiding citizens who are just exercising their constitutional rights. I would challenge other downstate state's attorneys to take the same pledge, and I would challenge, I'm retired in I think 610 days. There's an app on my phone that's really cool. It's down to the minute and the second of when I retire. But I would challenge whoever takes over after me on December 1st of next year to make the same pledge to you. So unfortunately, I've got to go. I told you my message to you would be pretty brief. Thank you all for coming. God bless each and every one of you, and God bless the United States of America.
Thank you to the State's Attorney, Jay Scott there. Next introduction I have for you is Rosanna Polito. And Rosanna Polito, born in Chicago, raised on the north side in Wrigleyville. She's a small businesswoman and an advocate for seniors. In 2005, she founded the Illinois Minutemen organization as a response to the country's growing immigration problems and the inability of our country to secure its borders. She has appeared nationally on television with Lou Dobbs, Neil Cavuto, and CNN's American Morning, and she's here with you today, Rosanna Polito.
Okay, folks, as it relates to illegal immigration, I'm going to put out some information because I just believe a lot of people don't know what's going on as it relates to Illinois. I went to the border in 2005, was one of the original Minutemen, and being a Latina, I just took up the cause. So we're going to start, some of this came out of our, how did Illinois become what it is today? And I'm going to tell you, the next time you vote, you need to look up people's voting records. You need to ask your representatives, did you vote for illegal aliens to get driver's license in Illinois? On and on. I'm going to give you some of the different facts. So in 2003, the FBI testified before Congress that the matricula consular, which is an ID for foreign nationals, that it was a threat to our national security. It's vulnerable to fraud and forgery. As a result of this, he said 2 major criminal threats are posed by this card. It helps a person establish a false identity, and the identity serves to conceal criminals that possibly law enforcement is trying to apprehend. And the last thing is, that, or the next great threat is that it presents a terrorist threat. Because again, a false, they can carry on with false identities. So that was in 2003 when the FBI testified before Congress. And so what did Illinois do? They made banks accept the matricula consular as a valid form of ID. So this is all going on, folks, and we have to pay attention now more than ever. In Illinois, we spend $4 billion a year on free services for illegal aliens. And we have a lot of homeless vets. We have seniors that built the country. We have veterans that fought for the country. I want my tax dollars to go to them. So in December 3rd, 2018, the census confirmed that 63% of non-citizens are on welfare. That's 4.6 million households, and those numbers are from 2014, 5 years ago. So, and also, compared to the native households, non-citizens have a higher use of the food programs. 45% of illegal aliens compared to 21% of native households. Next, Medicaid. 50% of illegal aliens are on Medicaid. 23% of native households are on Medicaid. And also, the feds wrote to Rauner and said, why are your Medicaid numbers going through the roof? The dollars that you're spending. What's the obvious answer to that? When you open the doors and say, our law enforcement can't enforce laws, which also makes it a double standard in Illinois. Listen, the thing about, we have a double standard here. When a cop stops me and runs my license, he knows absolutely who I am. He knows if I have an order of protection against me. He knows violations that I've committed. They know a lot about you. Is that the same when you have an illegal alien? No, because there's a good chance they use false documents to get their driver's license. And I'll tell you another thing that has happened that somebody made me aware of. A lady out of Washington, D.C. is. So somebody came here, presented documents, got a visitor's driver's license from Illinois. And they come here, get them. Then he moved to Massachusetts, still using his visitor driver's license, which is really illegal. Ended up killing somebody. He's in jail now. So, and I'm going to go right into that when you get a driver's license. And I'm going to tell you that I worked for the state for only 4 years. I worked for the Secretary of State. And I worked giving people driver's license and ID cards, so I know what I'm saying right now intimately. Because of the Motor Voter Act of 1993, Politico reported that over 2 million people were registered to vote before the 2016 election. This is people who aren't supposed to be voting. Often, the fact that an individual is an alien gets lost in the translation, and many mistakenly are registered to vote. I know that intimately. I know that the Secretary of State put the burden of proof on me whether or not they were a citizen. Not on them, on me. And if I asked them if they were a citizen, which I consider is a tool in my toolbox, I needed to write an explanation why I asked them, because they were afraid of these people being offended. And so a lot of times, now we've already heard in California, in Virginia, the numbers of people who were found on the voter rolls. Folks, you know, and the whole idea of voter ID comes up. You know, that we have to start really demanding, know who we're voting in office, and demanding stuff like voter ID. I'll tell you what, if I go buy a bottle of wine at Walmart, they won't sell it to me unless I have an ID. I mean, it's really ridiculous. So oftentimes the illegal aliens are added to the voter rolls, and when they renew their driver's license without any attempt made on behalf of the government to verify if they are United citizens. It's a loophole that must be addressed. So lastly, many of us don't know what to do. Where do I go? This seems really like a big problem that I don't know what to do. Well, there are some average citizens. Sheriff Clark from Wisconsin, Tom Tancredo, and a wonderful veteran, disabled vet, have started an organization called We Build the Wall. They will start building very soon. They've had donations from American citizens across the country. They're building a wall saying if the government can't do it, we will. Because it's needed, folks. I've been to the border 3 times. It's wide open. You know, there was a crisis back in 2005 when I was there. And now it's 2018. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. The other thing is the Illinois Minuteman Project. You can join us on Facebook for everything illegal immigration as it pertains to Illinois. Thanks for coming out. Folks, it's time citizen, average citizen, we need to find out what we can do to take our country back. It's worth saving, folks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Melinda. It's great to hear from you. There's a couple of things I want to recognize here. First and foremost, we have the state senator here with us. State Senator Chapin Rose of the 51st District. He's right over here. It's great to have these elected officials out here. They want to hear what you have to say, and seeing so many people here today is a good thing for all these elected officials. So thank you very much, State Senator Chapin Rose, for being with us today. I also want to now introduce you to Andrew Nelms. Andrew Nelms is the Executive Director for Americans for Prosperity, Illinois. Americans for Prosperity exists to recruit, educate, and mobilize citizens in support of the policies and goals of a free society at the local, state, and federal level, helping every American live their dream, especially the least fortunate. AFP has more than 3.2 million activists across the nation, a local infrastructure that includes 36 state chapters, and has received financial support from more than 100,000 Americans in all 50 states. Americans for Prosperity, Illinois. Andrew Nelms, thank you much for being here.
As Abby mentioned, my name is Andrew Nelms with the organization Americans for Prosperity, and ours is a nonpartisan one, which, among other things, promotes economic freedom. And as the lawmakers here can attest, in Illinois, it sometimes feels like attempting to push water uphill. But speaking of our hosts and those lawmakers present, I would like you to know that as someone who spends far more time in Springfield than I'd care to, I know firsthand that beleaguered Illinois taxpayers have no greater advocates in the State House than those lawmakers who are with us today. So thank you very much again, gentlemen, for your service. Now, as I always say, Illinois is at the top of every list it ought to be at the bottom of, or at the bottom of every list we ought to be at top. But it shouldn't be this way. By all rights, Illinois ought to be one of the most prosperous states in the Union, save but for bad public policy. And so we find ourselves as the laughingstock of the nation. When Mitch Daniels was governor of Indiana, he used to like to tell the story that being governor of the state next to Illinois was similar to being Homer Simpson's next door neighbor. Now, I certainly agree with our hosts that we need to restore Illinois to its proper place as the economic engine of the Midwest, but the solution to that is not giving chronically, fiscally irresponsible legislators, present company excluded, a blank check. Now, as long as Illinois has had an income tax, which has only been 25% of our time as a state, as you know, last year we celebrated our bicentennial, and Representative Butler had played a major role in that. We've only had a state income tax for 50 of the 200 years that we've been a state, and for the entire time we've had a state income tax, it's been flat. In fact, the promise of a flat income tax is enshrined in our state constitution. And procedurally, to switch from a flat income tax to a graduated or progressive one, proponents would need first to amend the Illinois Constitution. And to do that, both chambers of the legislature would need to pass the proposed amendment by a 3/5 majority in order for the question to appear on the November 2020 ballot. Governor Pritzker made the graduated income tax a cornerstone of his recent budget address. He's unveiled the rate schedule and is urging the legislature to vote on the amendment, yet still this spring. Now, if it were to appear on the ballot next November, ratification would then need to be secured by either a majority of those voting in the election or by a 3/5 majority of those voting on the question. Now, despite the fact that Illinois taxpayers forfeited an additional $40.5 billion during the temporary income tax hike, which, by the way, was supposed to continue to recede, the legislature permanently increased your state income tax by 32% over the Independence Day weekend in 2017 as you were enjoying fireworks and backyard barbecues. Yet some politicians are asking you to believe that this time, with this hike, unlike in 2011 and unlike in 2017, things are going to be different. During his State of the Budget address last month, Governor Pritzker declared, quote, "Workers deserve an income tax cut and a property tax break." Okay, I'm with him so far. I think you are too. But he then went on to say, quote, "A graduated income tax would lift some of the tax burden off of middle-income earners and instead ask the wealthiest to pay a little more. It is not fair that I pay the same tax rate as a teacher, a child care worker, a police officer, or a nurse," end quote. First of all, government doesn't ask people to pay taxes. They demand that you forfeit your hard-earned money. That aside, a flat tax is also referred to as a proportional tax, meaning everyone pays the same proportion of their income, which sounds fair to me. As an example, somebody with a taxable income of $50,000 would pay $2,475 in state income tax. Meanwhile, somebody with a taxable income of $1 million would owe the state $49,500. Thus, with a taxable income 20 times greater, their tax bill is also 20 times greater. Now, state income taxes by the numbers generally, 9 states have no state income tax. An additional 9 states have a flat tax. Now, Kentucky switched from a graduated to a flat tax last year. Meaning, more than a third of the states have either no income tax or a flat tax. And, by the way, recently, as I'm sure you know, Illinois forfeited the title of 5th most populous state to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, not because of anything good that the Keystone State did, but rather because of the bad public policy that's forcing people to flee the state, like Abby mentioned earlier. And of the 5 more populous states than us, 2 have no income tax, Florida and Texas, and Pennsylvania has a flat tax of 3.07%. Now, the graduated income tax amendments, such as those that are being proposed currently before the legislature, do not include rates. Merely, they ask the good people of Illinois to bless the notion of a graduated income tax, leaving the minor details like brackets and rates at the discretion of Springfield politicians. Now, we do not believe lawmakers should be given this carte blanche ability. Illinoisans would not be well served by granting the legislature greater latitude to levy higher taxes. The rate schedule proposed by the governor ostensibly appears to provide tax relief to the vast majority of Illinoisans, but remember, nobody would be paying less than the 3.75% that was in effect prior to the 32% income tax hike. That 2017 tax hike cost a family with a $50,000 taxable income an additional $600 over and above what they had been paying before. And the governor's plan proposes that a family of four with a household income of $61,000 would receive $271 in total tax relief. That, meaning that that family would still be paying roughly $400 more than they had been before. So my point here is that politicians needed to raise your taxes in order to pretend to lower them. Now, the trouble is that under a graduated income tax, many Illinoisans would likely find themselves paying rates which are supposedly only to apply to the rich. Now, the governor's proposal also includes some very uncompetitive and unfair aspects, and it would exacerbate even further our standing as an uncompetitive state. For instance, Illinois currently has the fourth highest corporate income tax rate in the nation. Under the governor's proposal, we would have the second highest corporate income tax rate in the nation. The Nonpartisan Tax Foundation noted that under the governor's plan, the state's overall ranking in their state business tax climate index, Illinois would plummet from 36th to 48th place, ahead of only California and New Jersey. The governor's plan also fails to address our crippling property tax problem. His plan offers a meager property tax credit, which could be reduced or eliminated at any time, and does nothing to limit or reduce the amount of property taxes extended. According to the Illinois Department of Revenue, some 6,042 local governments extended $30.9 billion in property taxes in 2017, and that's the tax bill we paid last year. That figure of $30.9 billion is about double what the state income tax brought in that year, and it represents the third straight year-over-year increase of more than $1 billion. A paltry $35 credit wouldn't even put a dent in the $155 and the $123 property tax increases Illinoisans experienced on average in 2017 and 2018 respectively. So much for that income tax cut and so much for that property tax break. Now, if Springfield politicians were to be given more tax power, all taxpayers would face greater uncertainty because it's likely that politicians would almost immediately increase rates, add additional brackets, and reduce the thresholds at which higher rates apply. As I mentioned, and maybe this is just the cynic in me, but many Illinoisans would likely find themselves paying those rates which are supposed to be reserved only to the rich. At the 1970 Illinois Constitutional Convention, one of the delegates said, quote, "If I read them," meaning the people of Illinois, "if I read them correctly, they would like and almost demand a limitation placed on the income tax," the thought being that we were told, and this is 1970, we were told, our forefathers were told, for those of us who are a little younger, that the federal income tax, when it was instituted in the first part of this century, was not to exceed 4%. While there is no need to belabor the point, we know where that went. I think people are fearful, end quote. While the delegate was off by a few percentage points, his concern was well-founded. After the ratification of the 16th Amendment to the United States Constitution in 1913, Congress implemented 7 federal tax brackets ranging from 1 to 7%. Just 5 years later, there existed 55 brackets ranging from 5 to 77%. And by the time President John F. Kennedy called for tax reduction in his 1963 State of the Union address, the top marginal rate was 91%. It would be myopic for taxpayers to accept any graduated income tax proposal in exchange for handing the legislature a blank check with the likelihood of higher taxes in the near future. As the editorial board of the Belleville News Democrat stated last spring, why in the world would state lawmakers be talking about a progressive tax if it were not a path to more of your money? Thank you very much.
So sitting back there, it kind of reminds me of Bubba Gump, Forrest Gump. This is just, I've just been able to pull this off in like 30 seconds of Googling. Amusement tax, a bottled water tax, a soda tax, a liquor tax. I can understand why they'd want to tax that because they're making us drink so much. Parking tax, wheel tax, income tax, gas tax, mileage tax, fair tax, now the so-called grain tax, Netflix tax, property tax, sales tax. I think that's enough. I think we've been taxed enough already, don't you think? Next, I want to welcome up Pastor Miles Holmes once again to share a few words.
Great to be with you. Why am I here? I'm here, first of all, with the invitation of these wonderful legislators. So give them a hand for letting me. That might be a little premature, right? You haven't heard me yet. Okay. Why am I here? I represent a church that I pastor, Revive, in Collinsville, Illinois. And every time I speak at an event like this, invariably, several people will approach me kind of quietly and say, I've never heard a preacher talk like this. I've never heard a pastor, how do you do this? And I tell them two things. Number one, that's partially what's wrong with America. And number two, you're going to the wrong church. Now, if you have a pastor, if he or she tells the truth and speaks about these issues, moral issues and life issues and family issues, you go back this afternoon and call them or give them a hug and say, thank you, we need to double your salary. You tell them that. I also am representing a page on Facebook called Trump and the Great America. It has 2.2 million followers. It's the largest Facebook page on America that is pro-Trump other than his personal page or the White House page. So follow me on Trump and the Great America, 2.2 million followers. I'm also a board member on the Illinois Family Institute, and I want to tell you that the Illinois Family Institute today is under attack. There's a joint resolution in the Springfield legislature criticizing the Illinois Family Institute, calling for press credentials to be pulled back, calling for the Illinois State Police to investigate Illinois Family Institute and Illinois Family Action for hate speech and incitement to violence. Why? What was our great crime? We dared to publish an article suggesting that the genocide of 61 million American babies was a Holocaust. A Holocaust. And we're being told, how dare you denigrate the memory of Jews by associating the genocide of children with the Holocaust when there were 6 million precious Jews destroyed in Hitler's ovens, but we have 61 million babies being torn apart. Let me ask you a question. I'm about to set my timer in a second. I'm about to get going here. Hang on. I just want to show you a picture. If I can find it on my... Here it is. No, it isn't. There's a smartphone, but not a smart operator. Lord help me. There's photos in here somewhere. And it's coming up. I'm in my photos now. I just want to show you something absolutely amazing that is going to stop the argument of every abortionist in America right now. Some of you cannot see this. Some of you in the front row can see it. That's a picture of the baby, my grandson. 8 weeks from this picture being taken, he is going to be born. He's not born yet. This is a picture of my grandson, Cole Mozzie, which was born in the Marion Hospital in a few weeks, 4D generated ultrasound. This is a human life. This is a baby. This is not a couple of cells or a fetus. This is a human baby. So take that, Democrat. Okay, I'm looking for my timer, and I'm about to start my timer. And I'll see if I can beat the clock, okay? Can we beat the clock? Somebody put me on a 4:30 timer, okay. Watch this. There she lies in the streets, in our streets, on your street. There she lies in the street alone, bloody, bruised, beaten. She's been struck over and over again by mockers and cynics. Is she still breathing? She's been run over by politicians, present company excluded, and by judges and lawbreakers called legislators. She's been ignored by professional preachers and paid pulpiteers. She's been punched and assaulted by movies and music and media. Over and over again, she's been stabbed and slapped and hidden by schools and educators. This beautiful and innocent creature is walked by, ignored, and an embarrassment to the cultured and the modern. Truth. Truth lies fallen in the street. Truth lies broken and bloody, battle-scarred and bruised in our streets. Truth is weak and almost gone, sadly, sorrowfully, staining our streets with her blood. This is the tragedy of our time. This is the abomination of our generation. This is the guilt of our godlessness. This is the cost of our carnality, the pain of our promiscuity. There is no gender anymore. Men can compete in women's athletics. We have no right to defend ourselves or arm ourselves. Babies aren't worth protecting. Marriage is between whatever gender you choose. Perversion is completely acceptable and normal. Jussie Smollett is not a criminal. Christian belief is backward and regressive. President Donald Trump colluded with Russia. But wait just a minute. What is this we see? Can it be? Is it possible? Someone must be praying. Someone must be on their knees with an open Bible. Someone, somewhere, somebody is fighting a spiritual warfare for time and eternity, because look, she's not dead yet. She's moving. Yes, now you're going to make me nervous if somebody doesn't say amen sometime here. So I just came from church this morning. People say amen, they applaud, they get happy. So don't just look at me, okay? Let me get started again. She's moving. I said she's stirring. There's still life in her. She is rising in the street, bloodied and bruised, but unconquered and unconquerable. And now she's stronger after the fight. Truth, almighty, eternal, glorious truth is rising again. God bless America. God bless every patriot standing for morality, decency, and truth. The truth shall make you free, Jesus said. You may be seated, I'm not done yet. In this nonsensical, weird, insane, and dangerous world, to allow into our vocabulary any reference to my truth as opposed to your truth is absolutely insane. Truth is not your feelings. Truth is not your emotions. Truth is not your personal opinions. Truth is definitely not your version of events. Truth is permanent. It is unchanging. It is irrevocable. It is reality. You were born a boy or a girl to become a man or a woman. How you feel today or next Thursday or last week makes no difference. Truth is permanent, unchanging, irrevocable reality. A human being developing in its mother's womb is a human life worthy of love and protection, regardless of what law or opinion disagrees with that reality. A marriage is between a man and a woman, and laws and opinions cannot change that. The Judeo-Christian, Western, capitalist, business, liberty, worldview is far superior to is not what you make it. Truth is not what you feel. Truth is not what you think. Truth is not transitory. Truth is not optional or personal. Truth is truth, and only the truth can make you free and keep America free. One more time, God bless America.
So I'm going to introduce Penny Weaver here in a second, but I've never met her before, but I already know she's the salt of the earth. And the reason why is because she's the director of New Life Pregnancy Center in Decature. Now, the pro-life issue is the one political issue where I almost step out of I'm going to be in front of people and try not to say something that's going to make this side of the room feel uncomfortable and this side feel super excited. This issue to me is a black and white issue. Pro-life, pro-choice of what? And the thing that we need to understand when we're talking about these issues, when it comes to the idea of abortion, is that the pro-life community, while fighting to save these lives of these unborn children, I have 3 children under 10. I've experienced a miscarriage in my life. It was sad. It happened. Found out it happens to basically 1 in 3 women. Women don't talk about it. And what we don't remember when we're fighting back and forth across this political aisle, where you have this side saying, they want to murder babies. I'm not going to say it's not baby murder. But you have this side saying, you want to tell women what to do with their bodies. Well, kind of, sort of, because it's not just your body. Where we miss the boat, and I say this as a millennial, a 34-year-old mother of 3 who's been in the exam room, excited to have a child and still terrified to death about what in the world did I get myself into, is that these women are making a legal choice. Something that one side of the aisle tells them is something that they should shout, should champion. The fact that they, as women, get to have this power to make this choice. In this political conversation back and forth about whether or not it's baby murder or whether or not it's men telling women what to do with their body, there's a woman right now, somewhere probably pretty close to here, sitting in a clinic trying to decide what to do with the rest of her life. And that is as equally important as what happens to that baby's life. And we cannot be the political party that discounts one heartbeat for another. We have to be the party that cares about both hearts beating. They think that we don't care about the woman. They've made that their platform. That's how they win on this issue. It couldn't be more further from the truth. We as a country give $500 million to Planned Parenthood. There are lots of women's health centers that could use that money that don't provide abortions. But we have to speak on this. We have to not be judgmental for the woman sitting alone in that exam room, I might add. She didn't get there by herself. There is no man next to her in that clinic, and she's making that decision on her own, whether this child lives or dies. That is 100% the truth, because I have seen it 6 weeks of beating heart on a TV screen that was beating inside of my womb. I know it's true. We cannot just talk about the baby. We have to talk about the woman. They don't get to have women's rights as a democratic issue. I'm a woman, I am a Republican, I am conservative, I am pro-life, and you are too. And we have to hold on to that issue. That's why I'm so excited to have Penny come up here and speak, because she's with these women. She's sitting there helping these women who feel judged if they do, judged if they don't. And she's on the front lines, and she's helping these women in any way that she can, and she's here to speak to you today. I want you to listen very closely to what she has to say, and I want you to, the next time you get into a conversation about these pro-life issues, don't forget about the woman. We'll win this issue if we remember the woman. We'll win this issue if we make pro-life women's rights, because half those babies are women too. Penny Weaver, the director of New Life Pregnancy Center in Decatur, on the front lines every day helping young women find alternatives to abortion. She's a lifelong resident of Decatur. She has 3 grown children and 1 grandchild. Penny?
afternoon. Turn on your TV, turn on the radio, log into Facebook, and what do you hear? Abortion is health care. Or how about, we must protect a woman's right to choose? Or how about this one? Human rights are women's rights. Women's rights are human rights. We have been hearing phrases like this, especially over the last couple of months, as we watched New York sign into law the Reproductive Health Act. Now, do you understand what this law does in New York? It means that any woman in the state of New York, throughout the entire pregnancy, she can be delivering her baby, and for any reason she chooses, can have an abortion. And what you have to understand is our current governor is on record stating that he wants to be the most progressive state when it comes to women's rights. Translation, he wants Illinois to be even more extreme than New York, and he is heading in that direction. I watched as the legislators in New York celebrated the signing of that law. And I sat back and I asked myself, how does one legally celebrate the ending of a life? And how did we come to a place in our society where we decided that a woman's right to choose to no longer be pregnant trumps an unborn baby's right to continue living? Let's be honest, most of us know what happens in an abortion and are familiar with the development of a child in utero. We know that a child is created at the very moment of conception. We know that although with the naked eye we can't see that baby boy and that baby girl, we know that she or he already has their own unique set of DNA. This child is a separate individual sheltered, supposed to be sheltered, within her mother's womb. And I believe we also know that abortion takes the life of an unborn child and often devastates the life of that mother. Abortion on demand, my friends, is a slippery slope that has undermined the moral and godly foundation of this great and amazing country. And friends, we have got to stand against it. We must. This year for me, marks 30 years in ministry at New Life Pregnancy Center. I have sat across from countless women who have told me, I'm going to have an abortion, or countless women that have said, I'm not going to have an abortion, there's no way. They oftentimes say to me, I can't do that. I know that that is taking the life of a child, but in the next breath, they will look at me and say, but I would never tell another woman that she cannot have an abortion. We have been so programmed by the abortion movement in our society to believe that that woman's right, again, to have an abortion is far more important than the life of an unborn child. And I ask you, how did we come to this place? Where as a result of legalized abortion in our country, we now have over 61 million unborn children who have lost their lives to abortion. And those 61 million unborn children are represented by countless and millions of women who walk through the doors of those abortion clinics and today are often devastating and hurting. You know what, 2019, we saw a decrease in the number of abortions in the United States. That's really good, right? Don't get too excited because the state of Illinois saw an increase in 2017. Do you understand that Illinois already has the least stringent laws when it comes to abortion? And our governor wants to take it to a whole new level. Wow. We have women crossing our borders to have abortions because the states all around us are more restrictive than Illinois. I believe that history often repeats itself, and if we do not pay attention, we are doomed to make the same mistakes again. So I'm going to tell you a quick story. Let's look at Germany in the 1930s. And Pastor, you kind of already talked about this. An elderly gentleman tells this story. He said, I have always considered myself to be a Christian, and this man grew up during the Holocaust. And he said, I've always attended church. And he said, when I was growing up, our little church, we had this railroad track that ran behind our church. And every Sunday, we would hear that whistle blow. And that little train would start off and go past our church, behind our church. And he said, one Sunday during our service, we became so disturbed because while that train was moving behind our church, we began hearing the cries of people on that train. And we grimly realized that train was carrying Jews, off to the concentration camps. He said, you know what, this happened week after week after week. And we finally decided we have got to do something. This is so hard to hear. And so they decided that when they heard that train whistle blow, they would start singing their hymns. And if, when they sang their hymns, they could still hear the cries of those Jewish people over the hymns, you know what they decided they would do? They would just sing a little loud. The gentleman said, you know what, we don't talk much about the Holocaust anymore. We should. He said, but I can still hear that train whistle in my sleep. I can still hear the Jewish people crying out for help. And God, forgive us for not doing anything. And I can tell you that history is repeating itself today in the United States of America when it comes to the issue of abortion. That is the great Holocaust of our time. Abortion is a slippery slope, my friends. And since 1973, we have slid so very far. We cannot be silent. We cannot be uninformed. We have 2 House bills right now that they are discussing that are absolutely horrific. We have information on our table. If you have not filled out a witness slip, please do so. Our legislators need to hear the stands that we are taking. At New Life Pregnancy Center, we come alongside these women. We offer encouragement, support, and love, no judgment. And that is what I believe we are called to do as Christians. I thank you for the opportunity to share with you today. I thank you. I encourage you to be a voice for the unborn children. If we aren't their voice, who will stand for them? Who will? Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, Penny. I want to give you guys a heads up. There's a pro-life rally April 3rd at the Capitol in Springfield to urge a no vote on both HB 2467 and HB 2495. 2467 repeals the parental notice of abortions. And HB 2495 is the Reproductive Health Act. Entirely repeals the Illinois Abortion Law of 1975. Creates a fundamental right to abortion with no restrictions or limitations for any reason through the full 9 months of pregnancy. That's April 3rd at the Capitol. You can go to pinkvests.com. I think there's some more information on this. It's hosted by Pink Vests. Excuse me. Next up, we're going to welcome Belinda Rowe to the stage. Belinda Rowe is a spokesperson for Illinois Carry. You can find more information about Illinois Carry at illinoiscarry.com. It's an all-volunteer grassroots action and discussion forum dedicated to advancing the right to carry in Illinois. Belinda is active in working with state legislators, the Illinois State Police, as well as the governor and his staff. She's assisted in forming Second Amendment Foundation lawsuits in Illinois and is the 2011 CCRKPA Grassroots Activist of the Year. She's also a firearms instructor and a range safety officer. Having been the target of a mentally ill family member for years, Belinda is now dedicated to educating others for the safe use of firearms, empowering them with the ability to protect themselves and their families. Belinda.
I want to thank all of you for coming out today. This is a great crowd, and I know that a lot of you came for information and to hear what the legislators have to say about what's going on in Springfield, but I know a lot of you also came to find out what can you do. Ever since this last election, with the new tide turning against gun owners in the state of Illinois, people are coming up to me and saying, I want to get involved, what can I do? And so that's what I hope to share with you today, to impart with you some of the things that you can do to stand up for your rights. And at Illinois Carry, we, as Annie said, we are an all-volunteer, not-for-profit group that when the legislator is in session, we monitor 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, what they are doing. Bills that are being introduced, bills that are being scheduled for committee hearings, and keeping tabs on what's going on there. We have an email alert that we can send out and let people know about what's going on. We fight this battle, and you have to fight this battle on 3 fronts. The first front that you have to be aware and that your part plays is the election front. I am so appreciative of your state's attorney and the statement that he made just a few minutes ago, because that's your backup, that's your final protection here at home in Macon County. And he has just said he will be retiring. Your job begins today. Who's going to replace him? Is it going to be a state's attorney will have your back and protect you. You've got time now to make sure that's what happens. Find your candidate who is going to protect your rights, stand up for the Constitution, and then work for that candidate. Get that candidate elected. So that's how we work on the election front. We find candidates who support our rights, and we support them with our hands and feet and with our votes. Secondly, you and I have to fight this on the judicial front. And we do that in Illinois Carry, and that's in the courts. When a law is passed that is unconstitutional, there must be a challenge. And Illinois Carry, my husband and I were very fortunate. I don't know if you've heard of the case McDonald versus Chicago, but Chicago had a ban on owning a handgun in your home. And we helped Mr. McDonald find legal counsel with the Second Amendment Foundation. Challenged that ban. It went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. And the U.S. Supreme Court said a ban on owning a handgun in your home is unconstitutional. And the court shot down that ban. And what that did is it set the stage then, if it's unconstitutional to ban having a firearm in your home for personal protection, what about outside your home? And then Moore versus Madigan and Shepard versus Madigan came into play. And those plaintiffs are everyday people just like you. Mary Shepard, an elderly lady who was at work in her church on just during the day, in the week, in the afternoon with another co-worker who was in her 80s and a paroled felon, somehow gets into the church. They assume that to rob the church, to rob these ladies, but he wasn't content with that. He beat them both so severely, he left them for dead. But they survived. And Mary Shepard, bless her heart, she had successfully completed 5 different concealed carry classes. She had 2 concealed carry licenses from another state in her purse, but she had no firearm in her purse. Why? Because at that time, it was illegal to carry a firearm on your person for personal protection. She, in her case, and Mike Moore and Peggy Fector and some other plaintiffs in Moore versus Madigan, they challenged that in court. And the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that ban is unconstitutional. Today we have a process of getting a license for concealed carry, and we can carry outside our homes for personal protection. That's what we can do in the courts. Right now you may not know it, but because of the way the Illinois State Police is interpreting the Concealed Carry Act, our active duty military stationed here in the state of Illinois, if they are not an Illinois resident, if they are a resident from another state that the Illinois State Police does not recognize as being substantially similar, they only consider 4 states having that status, our active duty military service members protecting our country cannot even apply for a concealed carry license in the state of Illinois. Culp versus Madigan, another court challenge, is what we have out there. And Colonel Culp was stationed at Scott Air Force Base in Belleville area. It takes individuals like you to stand up and say no more. It takes individuals like Otis McDonald, our dear friend in Chicago that we helped find legal counsel, taking on the city of Chicago. Can you imagine the bravery, the patriotism? That is the part that we play. Currently, just recently, I don't know if you've heard the news yet or not, but there is another plaintiff that we helped find legal counsel with the Second Amendment Foundation, a court case in our own county, White County, little bitty White County. One of our circuit court judges has ruled that the requirement to have a FOID card, to have to apply for a FOID card and pay a fee to have a FOID card in order to have a firearm in your own home for your own personal protection is unconstitutional. A brave lady is the person that is involved in this case, and The Second Amendment Foundation will be representing her, David Siegel. He's also the attorney for the Illinois State Rifle Association, a good man who has a good heart for the Second Amendment. So these things have to be fought on the election front, the judicial front in the court. They also have to be fought on the legislative front. And that's where our legislators here come into play. Okay? That's why you need to communicate with them. You need to know that who you elect is going to represent your interests at the state capitol. When J.B. Pritzker was campaigning for the governor's office, he vowed that the NRA would have no safe space in the state of Illinois if he was elected. He is making good on that vow. The first thing he did was sign the gun dealer licensing bill, which is so overburdensome and so restrictive, and is going to put a lot of our hometown mom and pop gun shops out of business. And when those go, it's only the big stores that will have to go to. And may have to travel 50 miles, some people maybe 100 miles. Because what they're doing is trying to make it so restrictive to eliminate as much of us as they possibly can. Well, not only do we have a governor now that's vowed that you don't have a safe space in the state of Illinois because we are all the NRA, we are all, supportive of the Second Amendment and we're gun owners. He's not got a safe space here for you. We also have a super majority in the House from the Chicago, Cook County area Democrats who are, you wouldn't believe all the legislation they are proposing to impose on the rest of the state. There is a bill, it was mentioned earlier, that would ban most semi-automatic handguns, rifles, and shotguns. And if you grandfather them in, if you already own them, you can only keep them if you register them with the state. And like was said before, we know what registration leads to. That's how they know where to go to get the guns. Okay, so there was another bill that's been introduced about your social media. If you are on Facebook or on Twitter, and I know there are some others out there, and I'm not, but those are the only two that I know to follow. But there's other social media out there that would give the Illinois State Police and the government, the state government, the ability, the right to monitor what you're saying, monitor what your friends are saying, and if there's anything there that makes them slightly suspicious or think that maybe you don't warrant having a FOID card, then they would revoke it or deny it, not issue you one. That's your First Amendment right. That's your First Amendment right. At Illinois Carry, our purpose is to advance the right to keep and bear arms, the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is the one that protects all the rest. Because once they take the firearms, just like in the Holocaust, it's one of the first things they did. We have nothing left to defend our constitutional rights with. So we want you to get involved. We want you to go to Illinois Carry, to the Illinois Politics Discussion Forum, where all of this legislation is introduced, and sign up for our email alerts so you get an alert, to make phone calls to the legislators, to fill out witness slips. How many of you know what a witness slip is? This is a good crowd. I am amazed. I am amazed. If you don't know, hold your hands up again. If you don't know what a witness slip is, you talk to one of these people after the meeting. Talk to the person sitting next to you. But a witness slip is whenever a bill is scheduled in committee and it's given a date and a time and a place to be heard. We, the people, have the right to go online and submit, or we can go to the state capitol if you want to go in person, and fill out a witness slip saying, this is who I am and I oppose this bill. Or this is who I am and I support this bill. I want this bill passed. And that all comes into play then when the bills are moved to the floor for debate. And it gives our legislators an idea of where we're expecting them to be. And there have been bills that have been tabled that were so atrocious that the backlash from those bills caused those sponsors to pull their bill from consideration. So that's one of the ways that you can get involved in the things that you can do. Call the sponsors of these bills when you see that they've been introduced. Call their office. We say call often. Call so often that they know your voice when they pick up the phone. that they know who you are and where you stand. Call the committee members who are determining whether that bill moves out of committee and goes to the floor for a vote. We had IGL this last Wednesday, March the 27th, Illinois Gun Owner Lobby Day. How many had the opportunity to go to IGL? Oh, this is an awesome crowd. Okay, Illinois Gun Owner Lobby Day. And that's where we meet at the convention center. We get information about kind of like what I'm giving you, legislative updates. And then we all march down Capitol Avenue to the state capitol and go in to talk to our legislators. If anybody, were any of you on the Lincoln Steps and saw that crowd coming down Capitol Avenue? Awesome, isn't it? It is absolutely amazing. And that's what we have to do. We have to get involved and show up. We have to keep that kind of pressure. Several have asked me already this morning, any idea how, what the numbers were for IGL? And I kind of chuckle and I tell them, well, if you listen to the Secretary of State's office, they said there was about 400 in the Capitol that day. Yes, so they had been about 400. But if you listen to the media, they guessed it more like 8,000 were marching down the street. And there's video on Illinois Carry on our website and on our Facebook page that shows people just pouring out and pouring out and pouring out of the convention center. So I say, well, yeah, we kind of got an official number. It's somewhere between 400 and 8,000, give or take about 6,000 or 7,000. So that's the official guess on that. So that's the kind of pressure we have to keep up. Illinois Gun Owner Lobby Day is a one-year event. We need every day to be calling and sending emails and sending letters to our legislators, their home office and their Springfield office, so that they get that message. If we cannot stop the legislation, then our last protection is in our county with our state's attorney. That is our last barrier for our constitutional rights. If you are from outside Macon County and your state's attorney has not made an announcement or has not publicly said that they will protect your rights, get one of my cards out at the Illinois Carry table or contact me afterwards. We want to bring this battle to you. We have in White County, we have a wonderful state's attorney, Denton Odd, made the statement early on. At Williamson County, state's attorney has also, Jasper County, Perry County. We want to see this spread like a prairie fire across the state. We want to take that, what we're calling, our state's attorney gave us an iron dome of protection in our county, in our home. We don't have to worry about being prosecuted or having what we own be unconstitutionally confiscated from us. We're calling that the Iron Dome of Protection, and we want to spread that Iron Dome out to include all of the counties that we possibly can. And so that is our goal. And that is a way that you can also be involved. Talk to your local sheriff. Talk to your local state's attorney. Where do they stand on the issue? And if you want a town hall meeting in your county to get this on record, we would be glad to come and do a town hall meeting with you. Events like this are informative, they're inspiring, but also they have a cost. Venues like this, have a price. Town hall meetings, you've got to have a location and such. So what we're going to do at this time is we're going to, because a lot of people say, how can I give? What can I do? We're going to pass the buckets. We've got little green Menard buckets that we're going to pass around. And if you would like to donate a little, if that's what you can do, it is greatly appreciated. If you can donate a lot, that is greatly appreciated. If you need to write a check, you can make the check out to Restore Illinois PAC. Restore Illinois PAC, P-A-C. And so I want to thank you all. Jose also wanted me to make mention that if you have a question on your note card that you would like asked of the speakers that are coming up next, drop your card into the bucket as well. Or if you need one, if you don't have the card and you need one, where can they get one, Jose? He'll bring, just raise your hand if you need a question card and Jose will bring you one. Okay. Also, we just want to remind you that It doesn't stop you. It doesn't stop you. We have constitutional rights. Every generation, every election cycle, our constitutional rights are on the chopping block. Talk to your children. Talk to your grandchildren. Get them involved in protecting their rights. We're all here for a purpose. For this day, for such a time as this, we need to protect and to stand up for our constitutional rights. I hope you will. God bless. God bless America.
You know what's strange is, I'm female, I'm a millennial, I'm a Republican. They make pink Trump hats. Why would they do that? Any women here who support their president? Well, lucky you men, we're the only ones apparently. They're all in the same room at the same time. What are the odds of that? It's really shocking. I think it's important to acknowledge these legislators that are here because they're the ones who can make Illinois great again. They only get to be here if you elect them to be in the General Assembly voicing our concerns for our state. Like we said before, we are the people who want to save our home. We want to protect our home. No offense to y'all from Chicago, but I'm from Southern Illinois, and it seems like it kind of starts to ooze out of Cook County into the rest of the state, at least the politics, some of the corruption maybe, and we're kind of tired of it. And getting good legislators outside of Cook County and the collar counties there is key. So being from Southern Illinois in the St. Louis Metro East, I live right across the river, we've got a lot of Democrat representatives down there. I want to get rid of them. I'm going to do everything in my power to get rid of those representatives. We need to protect these individuals who are there right now. We need to take back the General Assembly. I'd never give me another Christmas present again if we could take away the speakership from Mike Madigan. One of these individuals is State Representative Tim Butler. Illinois State Representative Tim Butler from Springfield, 87th District, is serving his third term representing the people of Logan, Menard, Sangamon, and Tazewell counties. Butler brings to the House more than 20 years of public service, working for the people of Central Illinois. He has served as District Chief of Staff for both Congressman Roddy Davis, that's my congressman, former Congressman Ray LaHood. He also served as the Director of Marketing for St. John's Hospital in Springfield. He began his professional career working on Capitol Hill for over 3 years. I'm not done yet. I have 3 more paragraphs. He's very tall. He doesn't use stairs. He just gets to jump right up on the stage, which is very, very handy for him. Athletic. Butler has been an active community volunteer for many years, including service on the boards of Downtown Springfield, Inc., the Dirksen Congressional Center, and the Springfield Roadrunners Club. Butler is a graduate of the Peoria Chamber of Commerce's Community Leadership School, was in Peoria's 1998 class of 40 leaders under 40. In a 1990 graduate of Eastern Illinois University, with a Bachelor's of Arts degree in Political Science, Butler has lived in Sangamon County since 1998 with his wife, Wendy. He previously lived in Logan County for over 3 years and has family ties to Tazewell and Menard counties as well. Butler, a native of Peoria, is the fourth. My job is to read this about you. This is good info. You gotta know who you're listening to. Fourth grade grandson of Lewis Barker, a state senator from Polk County during the first 4 Illinois General Assemblies. He is the youngest of 7 children, and his parents owned a small manufacturing business, and he's really tall. And you're gonna hold your own microphone.
You got it.
Let's take this one with me. State Representative Tim Butler.
Thank you, Amy. Good afternoon. Amy, I'm going to take you everywhere to introduce you whenever I go anywhere, so that's a good introduction. So I have a question for you all. Who believes that Mike Madigan's General Assembly will hold the line on taxes for you? Come on. Come on. Nobody? Who believes that Mike Madigan's General Assembly will hold the line on the Second Amendment for you?
Yeah, right.
All right? Who believes Mike Madigan's General Assembly is going to hold the line on life? No one. My name is Tim Butler. I'm a state representative from the 87th District, as you heard. I live in Springfield. I'm the representative who lives the closest to the Capitol. I live 2 miles north of the Capitol in Springfield, 30 miles down the road here. Which means it's great I get to go home every night and sleep in my own bed. It also means I can't get away from that. I want to introduce, we said hello to Senator Rhodes, who was here earlier. I want to introduce a few of our other colleagues that are here today. Chris Miller from Oakland. Stand up, Chris. Darren Bailey from Xenia. As I tell people, as I learned this summer, Xenia is a suburb of Corina. Representative Blaine Wilhauer from Decature City, correct? There you go. These are three of the great Republican freshmen we have in our caucus. And as I was sitting here thinking, I know we're just have a few minutes to introduce ourselves, but I really got hung up on this issue of life. You know, last Wednesday on March 20th, when we had that huge rally at the Capitol for the Life Rally, it was my birthday. And what a great day to have a rally for life on your birthday. I was born at 4:19 a.m., and under some of these bills that are going out there, my mom could have aborted me at 4:18 a.m. That's a crazy thing to think about. You know, in this state, we do a lot of things to promote life. So this morning, I put tomorrow's April 1st, I need a new sticker on my car. So this is last year's registration, but I pulled it out. So I put my sticker on my car today. And on the back of, your registration, along with your driver's license, join the Oregon Tissue Donor Registry. Life goes on. So we spend taxpayer dollars to promote life through organ donation. And it says on here, each year 300 people die in Illinois waiting for a transplant. Guess what? 108 kids are killed a day through abortion in Illinois. There's this little website that promotes safe driving, don't text, don't drive in Illinois. It's called Life or Death, Illinois. But we use taxpayer dollars to promote life through not texting and driving and safe driving. Life or Death, Illinois says distracted driving is responsible for over 1,000 deaths in Illinois a year. We have 40,000 deaths through abortion in Illinois. I don't want to make Illinois the most progressive state when it comes to abortion. I want to make Illinois the best state when it comes to adoption. That's what we need. We should be a leader on adoption, not a leader on abortion. We shouldn't have people moving out of state because of our tax structure and moving into the state because of abortion. It should be the other way around, is what we should have. And that's what those of us who are here today are concerned about. These issues, life, Second Amendment, taxes, those are things that we're over there every day fighting about. You have a voice in Springfield as much as you may not hear it every day. You have a voice in Springfield from the folks that you have here, right here today. So I know we're gonna take some questions and stuff like that, and we were limited to 3 minutes, and I just gave up my 3 minutes. So, Annie, back to you.
You know, it's interesting that if you have a child in your womb and they need to have surgery, like Ben Carson, we all know how famous Ben Carson is for operating within the room. You know they give those children anesthesia for those surgeries? Why would they do that? Why do we help children not feel pain inside the womb? And at the same time, remove them from the womb in some of the most grotesque possible ways. It doesn't make any sense to me. Another one of these individuals who's fighting for you in Springfield, State Representative Dan Calkins. Great to have you here. Born in Lincoln, Nebraska. Dan graduated from Stephen Decature High School in 1965. Also doesn't use stairs. He enlisted in the U.S. Army in 1966, a moment of recognition for serving the country. I'm sure many out there have also done the same. In 1989, Dan founded a company to build and operate a 16-bed group home for developmentally disabled adults in Sullivan, Illinois. That effort became Patterson House and opened in 1991. For the next 2 years, Dan oversaw the day-to-day operations and continued to seek other opportunities for growth. In 93, Patterson House successfully negotiated the purchase of 3 additional 16-bed homes. Starting in 1994 as Chief Operating Officer, Dan was responsible for the day-to-day operations to include the welfare of 64 residents, direct supervision of the nursing home administrator, and oversight of 60-plus employees. In addition to serving on several boards and committees, Dan served on the Decatur City Council from 2005 to 2009 and currently is a trustee at Eastern Illinois University. State Representative Dan Calkins.
Thank you very much. Is this on? It's good. I'm I'm not a trustee anymore. They made me get off before I got sworn in because I didn't pass a budget. So there was a conflict of interest. So, like I have a choice on how to pass a budget. I want to thank all of you for being here today. This is a very humbling experience, and I want to acknowledge everyone that's had a hand in putting this together. First of all, I want to tell you that our host today is Steve and Odette Horton. They own this hotel. They put a lot of money into this hotel to preserve it, and they were very gracious in allowing us to come here today at very, very minimal expense. And so, please, if you have something to do with your business, thank you. I want to thank my fellow reps, Brad and Tim, for helping me put this together. I want to acknowledge my wife, Jo, for everything that she's done for me. Now, where's Jose? There he is. Jose, stand up. Okay, this is the guy right here. It's the linchpin. And he's the guy that's going to take this all over the state of Illinois. Works for Darren, one of the hardest working guys in Illinois. And Jose, we couldn't have done it without you. Thank you very much. Mr. Wooters, thank you. You don't know, his wife is my chief of staff here in Decature. And thank you very much for stepping up. Nobody knew he could sing like this because he's down in a little town where the owls are. So thank you very, very much. It's great to be here. I don't want to take up a lot of your time because we want to hear questions from you. And I certainly want you to know how humbling it is to have all of you here today. And it's my pleasure to represent some of you. I look forward to doing that for the next few years. Let's work together. Let's come together. Let's have our voice heard in Springfield.
All right, let me get my papers in order. I want to, before I bring up Brad Hallberg here, I want to talk to you about an event that's taking place Tuesday, April 23rd at 6:30 p.m. It's Restore Our Constitution presents New Illinois. Representative Brad Hallberg, who we're going to have up here in a minute, Representative Darren Bailey, who is here, and Representative Chris Miller will be having this event. They will be speaking at this April meeting about New Illinois. You'll hear a little bit more about that in a second. So I would encourage you Tuesday, April 23rd at 6:30 p.m. Tuesday, April 23rd at 6:30 p.m. You can find out more about that. Now, what is New Illinois? I'm not going to explain it to you, but Representative Brad Hallberg is going to speak on it. He is a diversified farmer and small business owner of a company that makes fences. Brad Hallberg was born in Pana, Illinois, and attended Lakeland College. Hallberg is a former member of the Illinois Beef Association Board, and I always like to say this. Anybody in here like beef? Because you can't say that with a room full of Democrats, because some of those folks don't like beef. Illinois beef. Brad and his wife Linda live in Shelbyville, and they own and operate a small farming operation. They have 2 adult children and 1 grandchild. Representative Hallberg is both socially and fiscally conservative. He supports lowering taxes at the state and local levels and increasing the number of Illinois jobs. He supports property tax caps. Anybody property taxes? And opposes income tax increases. During his previous term in the Illinois House in 2012, he became just the 5th legislator to turn down the underfunded and overly generous General Assembly Retirement System pension. He was among a group of legislators that started the trend, and as of October 2016, 33 legislators turned down the pension as well. As I said, Hallberg is socially conservative. During his time as a state legislator, he has voted in favor of bills to provide transparency for local governments. He supports redistricting reform and imposing term limits on state legislators. Representative Hallberg, tell us about New Illinois.
Thank you, Annie. 3 weeks ago today, I had the distinct honor and privilege to be invited to a town hall just like this. These 3 gentlemen are sitting here in front of me in Effingham, Giving Performance Center. And what was interesting, we thought there was estimated to be about 1,600 people there. Well, this week, as reported by a widely read internet blogger, political blogger in Springfield, he said there was 5,000 people there. Now, to that fact, I don't know if there was 5,000 people there or not, but I know that we had 12 baskets of loaves and fishes left over. So thank you, everybody, for coming out today. And yeah, so an earlier speaker, Mr. Nelms, I think a lot of it, had some of the similar comments that I want to make here early on. You know, Illinois is the 18th largest economy in the world, 5th largest in the United States. However, we're losing population. We've lost to Pennsylvania, not because they grew, but because we lost people. We've had well over 750,000 people move out of the state since the last census, and they say that we could potentially have lost another 750,000 people before the next census, losing 2 congressional seats. That's just a shame to lose at least 1 and maybe 2 congressional seats to the 18th largest economy in the world. And like Andrew talked, when we look at all these economic indicators, we're on all the wrong lists. We're on the bottom of all the lists that we need to be on the top of, and we're on the top of all the wrong lists that we need to be on the bottom of. So things have to change. They need to change fast. How many of you think it'd be a great idea to separate from Chicago? Well, I couldn't agree more, and as we talk across the state and throughout, we continue to hear that. So I'm the chief sponsor of a resolution, HR 101, and it's a resolution that we introduced to separate from Chicago. And what we were seeking to do... Build a wall. What we were seeking to do is create a new state, a new Illinois, and it's a separation from Chicago. The separation or partition has happened 4 times previously in the United States. Vermont from New York in 1791, Kentucky from Virginia in 1792, Maine from Massachusetts in 1820, and most recently, West Virginia from Virginia in 1863. A separated Illinois, the GDP of Cook County would be something around $300 billion. 23rd in the nation would be the rank then. The new Illinois would be ranked about 15th in the nation, well over $400 billion. So these are rather large economies, even separated apart. The creation of the new Illinois is following the roadmap laid out in the U.S. Constitution under Article 4, Section 3. Chicago's not the only problem. The legislature is out of control. Corruption runs rampant. Publicly connected, wealthy, influential persons receive preferential treatment, as we see played out in Chicago just recently. One bad policy decision after another leads to one bad financial decision of another. The entire state is not being equally represented. Article 4, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution gives us a Republican form of government. This means that power is held by the people. Leaders are to serve our interests, and leaders are responsible for helping all people, not just a few. Apparently, some of our colleagues in Springfield have forgotten this, but they just simply choose to ignore it. I don't know which. We need a new state, a new start, a new Illinois. Of course, the critics complain that we can't survive without them. That said, those critics should be first in line for the divorce so that they can keep all the money that they say that they're using to subsidize this. Also, we hear the false narrative that all the extra dollars that are coming into our downstate counties to support us in relationship to the dollars that we send their way. But I think when you peel away the layers of that onion and you look at what goes on in these different counties, and if they have large state institutions in them, for example, the University of Illinois, hundreds of millions of dollars pours into the University of Illinois, as well as it does all of the universities and correctional facilities across the state. But not all the students of those universities reside in that county. So if you have a student from, say, DePage County that's going to the University of Illinois or to EIU, they're going to receive a reduction in their tuition costs as a result of all the taxpayers of the state of Illinois. So you would have to say that the students that are from DePage County or wherever they're from, they're going to the University of Illinois, their families are receiving a benefit of that. So be careful about that narrative. They're out there to say, oh, hey, there's $3 to every dollar going into Coles County or into Champaign County. It truly is a false narrative. So what are the components that we need in place for a separation to occur? We need to, number one, organize the counties. Number two, when that's done, declare independence from Illinois. Number three, we will prepare grievances that are published and read aloud on every courthouse staff in every county that wants to be a part of the separation. Number four would be to convene constitutional conventions. During these conventions, that's going to be how you lay out your governing documents as you move forward. Then we would seek approval by the Illinois General Assembly, and then ultimately seek approval by Congress. Anybody have a smartphone with them today? Take it out. We have a little thing to do here. So we have a little prop. Thank you, Mr. Assistant. Put it up high. Put it up high. So if you want to be a part of this and be informed of how this moves forward, punch into your phone 555-888. And the message that you're going to put is new ILL. 555-888. New ILL. You're going to receive a message that's going to give you a link to the website, and that's going to be kind of your one-stop source for the stuff that I just laid out for you. So in closing, I'm looking forward to your questions. All the hard ones these gentlemen are going to get. I get all the soft ones. Let's build a wall around Cook County and get Chicago to pay for it. Let's make Illinois great again. Fight for 51. God bless Illinois. God bless America. Thank you.
Okay, so I have some questions that you've already written here, so I'm going to ask them to the representatives here. You can answer, you can kind of talk back and forth if you like. It doesn't have to be one for all. So we're going to do this for the next 20, 25 minutes or so. First question. So many people say, I'm moving out of Illinois. I don't want to be chased off my land and home due to bad politicians and bad gun laws and bad taxes. I also have a real issue with the governor and lawmakers passing laws to make me a criminal. I say we need to chase the bad politicians and the governor out instead of us. How can this be accomplished, and what are you doing to get rid of Pritzker?
You know, I would say one of the things that doesn't get talked about the election much this last fall's election. Everybody thinks we had this big, blue wave in Illinois and stuff like that. If we would have run in our suburban members, where we lost in the House, where we lost suburban members up north, if we just would have run at the same level as Governor Rauner in those seats, we actually would have picked up seats in this last election. Our operation, our House Republican operation, wasn't good enough, and I was chair of that at the time, to overcome some of the stuff that was going on. But if we would have just been good enough to run at Governor Rauner's levels, we actually would have picked up seats. We were within 9 seats of taking the gavel from Mike Madigan going into the 2018 election. I don't think, personally, it's as bleak as people think it is in Illinois. We need good candidates who talk about the issues and run hard and are well funded as well. They need money to run campaigns, and that's why it's important that you donate to people as well on good candidates. But I don't think we're nearly as Democratic state as people want to make it out to be. We've got a lot of good new members in the Illinois General Assembly on our side of the aisle. They're going to do good things, and we're going to continue to fight for you guys over in Springfield. I can tell you that.
Next question. What percentage of the General Assembly and Congress have to approve of the new Illinois for it to move forward? And then a follow-up after you answer that. Is this a hard question?
Text new ILL to 555-888. We'll get you that in.
So this follow-up question is, how do Chicago reps feel about the new Illinois?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Again, the comments that we hear is downstate can't survive without Chicago. And I said, well, they need to be the first in line for the separation. So they can keep all this.
Do they take it seriously?
What's that?
Do they take it seriously?
I don't know whether they do or not. But it's driving the discussion. The reason why this discussion is gaining momentum is we talked about the issues of life and the issues of protecting ourselves and the issues of being able to mine coal and to extract oil and on and on and on, the sanctuary states. All these things, all our traditional family values are all under attack, and it seems to be kind of the driving force around the separation. They said, look, if we can't have a seat at the table, then we're just going to be separate. So, yeah.
I'm going to radio show here, host here, and ask a follow-up question. If we're talking about New Illinois and a separation from Chicago, do we actually think it's more likely that we could separate from Chicago than fix the state of Illinois as it is right now?
That's a great question, and I think what we're seeing with California and the movement in California and maybe some other states, what will drive this discussion at a much more faster pace is the pending financial collapse of these states. Depending on which research you look at or what numbers you look at, we could be $250 million with unfunded pension liability, debt, whatever, however you want to stack that up. That's $250 billion. Our GRF budget, we grapple over 38, 39 billion. The state actually spends, about 70 or 80 billion dollars a year when you look at the federal pass-through dollars. And to say, we grapple over a 38 or 39 billion dollar a year budget, and we have unfunded pension liabilities and debt of $250 billion. So I think we're upside down, and the pending financial collapse could be the driver to get people at the table to have this discussion about how we do things.
Thank you. Next question. What does healthcare look like for those of us who are soon to lose employer coverage, but too young for Medicare? Premium costs are outrageous. I think, and she says, or he, I'm assuming by the handwriting, it's she. I think I read where Obamacare was ruled unconstitutional.
The healthcare issue is really a federal issue at this point. And I think a judge did rule part of it unconstitutional, and I know that there's a vote that's going to come up in the House. Nancy Pelosi is trying to pull some shenanigans and put people on the spot. But what we can do here in Illinois, and I'm on the Prescription Drug Affordability and Accessibility Committee, and one of the things that we're looking at is making the cost of drugs more affordable. There's a middleman involved in what you pay for a prescription drug. You go to your pharmacist goes through what they call a prescription drug benefit, PBM, prescription benefit manager, who works with the manufacturers. That PBM is a business, but they've gotten a little out of hand. I'll put that mildly. We're looking at a way to, I guess, rein in their profits, to make it more transparent, I think is a good word, which will then in turn mean that the cost of drugs passed down to our pharmacies are going to be less. So we're working on issues here in Illinois that will affect the cost of your medicine. I think this is going to be something that's going to get worked out. There's a House and a Senate. I'm part of the House group, and we're trying to help solve this. One of the things, though, that won't work and in our committee is that the chairman of our committee brought up a bill last week that would essentially price control prescription drugs. The government has no business putting price controls on anything. It didn't work back in the 70s, and it won't work. So we are working to lower the price of your prescription drugs. I hope that we get it done soon. It also will benefit the local pharmacies that are being run out of business. So there's a whole system here that needs to be reined in and put under the microscope. Thank you for the question.
I'll follow up on that as well. Governor Pritzker in his campaign, among many other things, he wants to be the most this and the most that. Unfortunately, Illinois feels like the most this and most that in a lot of cases, but not in a good way. He wanted to be the most progressive state in the union for healthcare and providing healthcare to the people. Have you seen any policy positions, any efforts specifically in bills, any of you, about what J.B. Pritzker is looking to put through?
Well, I talked about the price controls on drugs. There are several other bills that are coming through our committee, and it's a very socialist point of view. It's never worked. It won't work. Hopefully we'll have the kinds of discussions we had last week when we defeated that bill to put price controls on prescription drugs. They're not going to quit. One of the things that we can do is to save money, is to not give benefits to people in this state who don't deserve it, who haven't earned it. That alone will save hundreds of millions of dollars. That money can be then either put back towards something that's essential or used to offset the costs of health care in the state. So we need to be very judicious about how we spend our money. And we spend it on things that we don't get reimbursed for. The federal government reimburses for things in public aid. But when you spend money on things that the federal government doesn't reimburse, we pay 100% of it. We need to get rid of that. And one of those things is abortion.
All right, next question. If when the next union contract comes up, we start from scratch and negotiate everything, there's a lot of underlining in this question. A new contract should not add to our debt by adding raises, perks, but everything gets negotiated considering current fiscal situation. So basically, the summary of this is a huge financial weight on our entire state based on the unfunded pension system. Like I said before, I'm married to a public school teacher who's sitting right over there. And he's in his mid-30s, and he's paying, into a pension. His local school district actually picks up the entire responsibility for his pension, his 9.4% contribution. Look to see if the school district you live in is paying for your teachers for their portion, what they're supposed to contribute, because he's going to get a pension, but he's not paying anything into it. Isn't that something? And this is my own house. I go on the radio and I'm shaking my fist at the sky, and people are like, isn't your husband a school teacher? And I'm like, should it matter? It's coming out of my pocket. I'm paying taxes, he's paying taxes, and if it's insolvent, then what? So what happens with the union contract as it exists right now? What is negotiable? What's a realistic expectation that taxpayers should have going forward about this big problem?
So I assume the question goes to the state contract with the largest union in the state, which is AFSCME. And I know a lot of you probably followed everything that happened over the last 4 years with Governor Rauner. There was obviously a big battle between the governor and the union. And what I've said, look, I represent a lot of state employees. My wife's a state employee. I live in Springfield. I represent a lot of state employees. It's an important part of the economy in my district. I have 2 prisons in Lincoln and Logan. I have a lot of state facilities, so I understand the importance of state employees. But you got to have a fair contract for the employees, and you got to have a fair contract for the rest of the citizens of the state who pay the taxes as well. And I think that's really what Governor Rauner was getting to. This is a situation with the union contract that we really have nothing to do with it. It is completely separate from the legislative branch of government. And it's one of my frustrations when some of the union folks have come to me wanting us to get involved into the union negotiations. It ain't our place. It's really not. Now we can make laws that govern how things take place, but getting directly involved in the union negotiations isn't our place. Governor Pritzker has made this. I know, getting elected and coming in early on is settling the AFSCME contract and figuring things out. And my guess is it will be a very good contract for the union. Would be my guess. The pension situation in the state, as somebody who represents a lot of state employees, is a big issue on both fronts. We want to protect what people were promised, but also we got to figure the way out of this. This is, as Brad said, I mean, we got upwards of $250 billion in unfunded pension liability. State employees who are in Tier 1 get a 3% compounded COLA annually, which has been a real driver of the cost. That was a good deal back in the day. It happened under Governor Thompson, and if you're a state employee, it's a good deal. But obviously, that's what's gotten us into the situation that we're in today. I don't know exactly what's going on with the negotiations between the governor and AFSCME. I would assume they're going to do it quietly. They're going to come out someday and they're going to announce that they've got a deal on the contract, which expired in 2016, I believe, is when the last contract was that it expired. So it's, I would assume that there hasn't been a lot of talk about it in Springfield. So I assume they're doing it behind the scenes. They're going to come out one day and say, here's the contract. That'd be my guess.
want to take up a challenge that was laid down today on Capital Connection. And one of our state Democrat senators said, well, what's your solution? You don't want this, you don't want that. What's your solution? Let me tell you what has worked. In California, the city of San Diego pension plan went broke. It got embezzled, that's why it went broke. But it went broke. And the city fathers said, you know what? We're freezing everybody's pay, everybody's benefits, until we get our pension plan back on track. And I would propose that we do that. Stop what we're doing. Let's put the money in that we need to put in to get our pension plan back on track. You know, our state employees work hard and they do a good job, but they're not underpaid. Not when you compare them to the private sector. And I would suggest that if you want a solution to this, that we start there. Let's stop this escalation. Let's stop putting money, not putting money aside to meet our obligations. We have to have the money to do it. That's one way I think we can do it. So there's a solution for you, for the Democrats.
Thank you. I think it's worthy of note, too, that, first of all, I think that Republicans are most defined by Democrats telling us what we are, and then we define ourselves by saying, no, we're not, as opposed to kind of, no, this is what I am, and I'm proud to be this way. We don't really talk about it. We defend ourselves when the assumptions are lobbed our way. So I think that it's important that we continue to constantly defend who we are and where we are. One thing that Republicans aren't, we are not against teachers. We are not against state workers. We're not against people who make a living by working for taxpayer-funded paychecks. We just want fiscal responsibility. They want it too. I mean, a lot of them want it, and they're not always comfortable to talk about it. But the idea that the Republican Party is against these taxpayer-funded positions, the ones that we need, the ones that educate our children, and the ones that work to keep our state functioning, we are not against them. And we need to make sure that we stand up and take that opportunity to defend who we are as opposed to who we aren't. Because so often when you get into an argument about this is what you are and this is what you're for, and you go, that's ridiculous. Of course not. You've already lost the battle. So we need to speak out more. We need to speak out for the things that we are for. Here's another question. I have entered witness slips, but sometimes it won't allow me. So there must be a time window. What is that window? How can it be expanded? It can be prohibitive for the working folks with limited time. Is there a window?
I don't believe there's a window. They did move, so when you file a witness slip for a piece of legislation, it is all done online now. It used to be where you could go to the committee and fill out a slip and hand it to the clerk and get it on. But now it's all done online. It's a fairly simple process. Sometimes after a bill has moved, they won't allow you to fill out a witness slip. So say after it's moved out of committee or after it's gone out of the house or something like that, I think that's when you won't be able to file a witness slip. If you ever have any problems and you file a witness slips, get a hold of us. We can also get them in for you. Make sure you get them in as well.
Okay, last question. What can you do to remove Chicago State's Attorney Kim Fox?
New Illinois?
888, text
Yeah,
555-888.
I mean, is the corruption, this is my question, is the corruption that we see and I'm putting myself on this side of this aisle here with these folks. We, as Illinois residents, we assume it will be corrupt. We assume that it's going to be punitive to the taxpayer. We assume that we wake up and we look at however we consume our Illinois news and it's going to make us upset and frustrated. Are we wrong to feel that way? Are we not looking in the right places because the corruption, the taxpayer oppression is, and I look at it for a living, it's pretty easy to find and pretty quick.
It is, but you watch Chicago aldermen being prosecuted for taking bribes and blackmailing people. You watch Jesse, walk and seal the records the next day in a court proceeding that should have taken weeks to get hammered out. I'm not saying what he got was wrong. I'm saying the process was correct, and that's what we see. We see justice for them and justice for us, and we see it all the time. And it's I'm not, I guess conspiracy theory. Is this a way to alienate all of us and start something that might not end well? I hope not. I hope that's not the purpose. But it is. It's a corrupt system. It goes back to getting traffic tickets fixed in Chicago and, paying off your alderman to get your garbage taken out, your street swept or plowed. It seems that when it's accepted, and this is the problem, when that kind of corruption is accepted as the norm and how business is done, then democracy crumbles. And we cannot accept it. We can't stand for it. And when you see it, and you shine a light on it, and you tell the truth about it, and you've heard it from the pastor, I think it goes away. People inherently know what's right and wrong. We know. Every one of us knows what's right and what's wrong. And when you're shamed in public, hopefully that changes behavior. So that's kind of my point. Go ahead.
So, and this is really hard being in the legislature, but I'm an optimist. It's hard being in the House and being an optimist. But being a Republican especially. But, here's the problem. When you have a guy who runs the Illinois House of Representatives, who's been in the Illinois House of Representatives since I was 3 years old, and I just turned 52 last week. That's a problem. A guy who became speaker before the first publicly available cell phone came out, which is 35th anniversary was a few weeks ago. That thing
Before me.
Well, before you. That's why we need term limits. That's why we need leadership term limits. That's why we need elections. That's why we need fair maps. We need opponents. What I worry about is we come from, they've drawn our district so much where nobody wants to run against us because it's all Republicans. I'm not trying to get an opponent to run against me, but elections are important and having choices are important. And when you see in the city of Chicago what's happened over decades, where the same family ran the city of Chicago for so long, and now, Bill decided to run again this time and almost could have made the final two. There's something wrong with that. But, look, I've been around this game a long time. I think 95% of the people who get in elective office do it for the right reason. They really do. We might not agree, we might disagree vehemently with a lot of our colleagues from up north. That doesn't mean they're bad people. It just means we really disagree with their stupid point of view. And that doesn't mean now some of them are corrupt. We see it every day. It happens all the time. And we've seen some of it obviously with Alderman Burke, whatever the heck's going on with the Burger King there in Chicago, I don't know. But I do think people mostly are good at getting into these positions. But it's incumbent upon you to do the research and talk to us and get out at election time and make sure you go to these things like this to find out who we are. And if you have a conversation with an elected official and go, I don't know about that guy, then maybe you should vote for him. So anyway, I'll be the optimist, I guess.
So, the Jesse Smollett thing, Smollett grabbed a lot of attention, a lot of headlines right in Chicago. But the corruption goes on in your backyard at every level. At the township level, at the school district, at the city council, the park districts, the water districts, on and on and on. At every level, every community, every size town. It doesn't matter. Now, they're not all that way, but it goes on. There's 3 or 4 cameras in the back of this room today that are being run, and this is live streamed from watchdog groups, citizen watchdog groups. People like you and I that have had enough, and they've taken on this challenge to watch units of government. We have 7,000 to 8,000 units of local government. And so, you'd say, well, everybody ought to know what's going on, and it's ought to be pretty transparent and very visible. And it seemed like the more laws we pass and make in Springfield, the more shenanigans go on. So, to the credit of the Edgar County Watchdog Group that's been doing this since 2010 or 2011, hundreds of officials have left office, either resigned in disgrace, or when they shone the light of truth on what the activities they were doing, they drew opponents and they were beat at the ballot box, whatever the case is. Citizen engagement is crucial as we move forward. We heard earlier today about, we've been talking about witness slips, crucial stuff. We didn't really talk a lot about the vehicle mileage tax bill that was brought to light after the filing deadline back in February, and the homeschool bill that would mandate the DCFS would come in and inspect homes twice a year of homeschools. Those bills were beat back, I believe, over one weekend with what happened on social media, the outrage that citizens got involved, and I think both of those bills were tabled. Yeah, I know one was, I think both of them were tabled. Because of what you guys did, you guys got involved, the power of social media, you know, I mean, I had this nice graphic that shows how many political battles were won on social media. It's like 0, but you gotta be careful. But when the bad stuff's out there, it gets out there. And citizen engagement at that level is involved. Citizen engagement, watching your local units of government, will be a huge factor. So kudos to the Edgar County Watchdogs and others that are getting engaged all across the state over the last 3 years for what they're doing to regulate our politics.
Okay. I'm going to sum up this last question here. You know, go ahead.
Bob, did you get Perry and Dan? We're going to do a quick one more round of raffle tickets. Anybody that didn't get a chance, we're going to raffle off these 2, a pistol and rifle. If they want to bring the tickets in here and the guns, give everybody a chance to get a ticket, one more chance before we raffle them off. Please. Thank you. Sorry.
No problem at all.
Before they get banned.
Yeah, hurry. I just finished my conceal and carry training last Sunday, because I figured might as well get in there. Now I gotta wait in Illinois for like 6 months to say, oh, you're okay. So we'll see. We'll see if I turn out okay. This last question here is regards to the F word, free. Yeah, got you there for a second, didn't I? So, you know, on a national scale, we've got, socialism is now a word that people associate with themselves. It's not a dirty word. It's just, yeah, I'm a democratic socialist, or no, I'm just a socialist. The idea of things being free, we all know that nothing is free, ever. And when you look at Obamacare, what Obamacare really did was guarantee insurance companies customers. It didn't give you the opportunity for people to come to you to compete for your business based on your needs. It said, you do this or we tax you. And they told us it wasn't a tax until the Supreme Court said, you can't do this unless it's a tax. So, healthcare. When we provide healthcare for everybody, we eliminate competition. I think the same goes for education. The amount of student loans that we hand out to anybody and everybody, and they're going to graduate, get a teaching degree, and have a wonderful teaching career. But if you're making $40,000 when you get out of school and you took out 6 figures of student loans, we make this type of opportunity so available to people without the common sense that goes behind the investment in what we're getting on our return. If people, this is the question, if people have no skin in the game, why should they have any interest in keeping costs down?
Exactly.
You want it? That's your tax question. I mean, that's it. Every person. Yes, sir.
Get rid of the FOID card. Get rid of it.
The FOID card was declared unconstitutional 2 weeks ago. We'll see how that goes. Pardon? Oh boy, the Illinois Supreme Court, 4-3, I can hear it coming. Just like the fair map 2 times. I got on the kind of the bad list in the Supreme Court during our orientation. My friends here are laughing, it's true. I asked the Chief Justice of the Illinois Supreme Court, I said, we have 7 of the finest legal minds in the state of Illinois, and you couldn't agree that a petition signed by over 300,000 people should be put on the ballot. How come? How do you explain that? That the 7 of you have a 4-3 split decision on the legality of the question, should we have a fair map? And, so that, I haven't been invited back. Well, I did get invited back.
Hey, question, Dan. At the gubernatorial election level, is it possible in the Illinois Constitution to have that as an electoral college?
There you go, Tim.
I'm having that bill drafted as, I introduced a bill that would divide up our federal electoral votes by congressional district. So I believe in Illinois, with our 18, it would have been 11-7 or,
Yes.
Hillary would have had 11, Trump would have had 7 in Illinois. So you divide it up by congressional district.
What about the governor?
And so the governor's, that's one I'm getting drafted, that you would have an electoral vote by county. And then the other one that I'm having drafted is reconstituting the Illinois House of Representatives to 102 seats, each elected by county. So there'd be 102 representatives.
Two counties and win the election.
Well, 5.
I'm referring back to Quinn.
Yeah,
Quinn won 2
Quinn.
counties and won the election.
Yeah, our current governor won 5. He
Correct.
lost 97.
So can I go back to this free thing? Work ain't bad, people. I mean, that's the thing. It's like failure's not bad. Everything shouldn't be free for you. And this is what concerns me about this movement towards socialism. And the Democrats act like it's not that big a deal. But I got into a really good discussion. I don't know if I won the argument on social media or not, but I made a post about how millennials now think that socialism is okay, and I maybe posted it to stir the pot a little bit.
Not all millennials.
Not all millennials.
Not all of them.
And what came out of it actually was a really good offline discussion with a woman from Pekin who is in my district that is part of the Democrat Socialists of America, whatever. And we actually got in a discussion offline and found out she's a big supporter of the Second Amendment. So it's like we got to have these discussions, but people have to realize not everything's free, people. I grew up in Peoria with a crappy economy in the 80s. My parents' business went bust in '85 when I was a freshman at EIU. I worked my way through college, and I had $13,000 in debt when I walked out of there, which is about $27,000 these days. It's not that bad to pay off your debts and work and do that kind of thing. Not everything's free, and I think we need to make sure people know that and believe that it's okay for it not to be free.
Thank you very much.
And we have a lot of good scholarships at Eastern if you had been a better student.
So, Jose, are we going to do a drawing?
We're going to do this. This is for the Henry rifle. It's $10. If anybody doesn't have a ticket and you want one, we're going to just raise your hand real quick. There's one back there. There's one over here. There's one. Oh, you a Second Amendment guy? I had a few my guy there. And then we're going to give this away. We're going to give it away right now. And we also have a pistol we're paying for it. It's not free. No, we're buying this, and you're buying tickets, and the winner is going to possess this. Now, you're going to have to go down to Macon to pick it up. You can't have it today, even if you do have a FOIA card. The other option we have here is this Ruger. It's a 22 semi-automatic, beautiful little carry gun. It's a great gun if you want to go to the range and shoot. This has been very, very popular. I hate to say it's a lady's gun, but it is pink and purple and whatever.
It'll still do the trick.
Yes. Yeah. There's a story about a guy that was bear hunting with a 22. He got away. The guy was with it. He was shot in me didn't quite get so lucky.
I just want to take a moment while we are finishing up.
So if you want
Yeah.
you want in on the raffle, now's the time, you know, because they are going to be raffled off.
So take out your phones right now and make sure that if you haven't texted the 555-888, which I think is still here, yes. Another thing you can do is if you're on Facebook, Restore Illinois PAC, PAC, Restore Illinois PAC, they've just created a Facebook page that you can like. When these things are created and we see them on social media, a lot of times this is how many people discover. I can't tell you from being a radio show host in St. Louis, how many people will hear tomorrow that I was here and they'll say, oh my gosh, I would have driven to that. I wish I would have known that that's the case. Restore Illinois PAC on Facebook will be publishing more things that they're doing like this. And liking that Facebook page and being able to interact with it is a fantastic way to stay engaged and stay informed so you can continue to participate in that. Again, you can text this number to find out more about New Illinois. And you can also, I think most of your representatives are on Facebook, correct?
Oh, yeah.
So connect with these representatives, with your legislators, follow them. I follow my representative. My representative is Katie Stewart in the 112th district, and I couldn't be more opposed to what she stands for. She's a co-sponsor of HB 2495, so she is putting her name on the line to sponsor abortion through the 9th month. You better believe that I've been in touch with her. She's welcome on my show anytime, if you want to tell her.
That's great. I want to plug our Lincoln Day dinner. If you're interested, this Thursday, we'll be back. Where's Bruce? Where's our county board chairman? Bruce, this Thursday, here, 6 o'clock, 5:30? 6 o'clock, we'll be back here at the conference center. Got a great program going on. This is a fundraiser for the Macon County Republicans. And if you're wanting to come and have dinner, come sit with us. It's always a great program and a lot of good folks doing it. And thank you for the commercial moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Are we done?
Everybody, all who have voted, how's that? All in, everybody's in. We're good? What do you want to give away first? You want to give away the pistol or the rifle? Whatever. All right, so here's the pistol. Someone's going to own this pistol. Somebody's going to own this. Now, I can't make it anyway, so you'll have to try.
In 3 days.
Hold on a second. Let's do this right.
That's right.
Put it in here.
You can touch it.
You may own it now.
That's all of them, I think.
That's it.
That's the winner. That's the winner. All right, Amy says that's the winner. Dan? Oh, John Erickson, where is he?
I've never won anything in my life.
Guess what?
You had to come to a town hall to talk about saving Illinois to do.
Guess what? You didn't. I'm going to draw again.
No way.
So here's your pistol, John.
I want to look at it, I get a picture of it.
You can handle this, but you can't leave with it. You have to go to Decatur.
It's never that easy.
And pick that up from Perry. Perry Lewin was nice enough to give us a great deal on this, and just we should stay with him. There you go. Now you're going to have to behave. Okay, we're ready for the next one. This is from the bullet trap. You want to pull that out there? No, let me pull out the rifle. This is a Henry. This is a beautiful rifle. I didn't get a ticket because I'd be embarrassed if I wanted. This is absolutely beautiful Henry lever action 22. Just an absolute, pardon? Yeah, it shoots shorts, longs, and long rifles. And the winner will be whoever.
Number 196955.
Name on the back.
No name. Right where? Who's got it?
Right there in the back.
Oh, come on up. Come and see Dan.
When you said 196, I was off.
That's it. So I want to, again, thank thank you, all of you guys, for coming here today. They come here to support us, fellow freshmen. We band together, we work together. We bring one conservative voice to Springfield. Yeah. Blaine, this is the Eastern, conservative Eastern Bloc. Stand up. Come on. Come here. Come on. Somebody get a picture. Come on here. This is the freshman class. Come on. You're a part of this. But this group of people are fighting for you every day in Springfield. Every day. Every day. Conservative values, pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, low taxes. We're there for you. Please, look for us on Facebook. Help us out. Is there anybody? Anything else? Yeah? All right. Thank you very much. We're going to close with a prayer. We do this. This is a part of how we live our life. And I'm going to get Darren Bailey here to offer a prayer call. So if you please stand and just take a moment.
It is an honor. It's a privilege. It's a blessing. It's very humbling to be here for such a time as this. I thank you for coming out. I want to encourage you with a few things. If you have not seen the movie Unplanned yet, you must see it. It is about Planned Parenthood. It will change your life and it will spur you on to fight the abortion issues even more so. So please consider that and do that. We ask, you're going to leave here, and again, faith without works is dead. And what do? And you have to start talking about these issues. Like Pastor Holmes mentioned, your church should be talking about this. There is no such thing as separation of church and state in America. You can find that out by Pam Johnson's desk back there, Wall Builders. They do a good job educating us. Something else that our founding fathers, the early history in our country that is forgotten information. You remember these three places called Concord, Trenton, and Lexington. Thank you very much. Yes, she's got you know what? Those were not organized militaries that went out and met the British government. They were churches. They were churches, okay? Don't forget that. So there's, Paul Revere's right. He wasn't necessarily just riding around warning people about the British coming. He was going to the churches because he was looking for two men, Alexander Hamilton and John Adams, who the British were coming to arrest. The church was harboring them, so he was riding around trying to find them. Never forget that our nation is a Christian nation. Those are our founding principles. So until we get that figured out, all this other stuff we're talking about is not going to happen. Proverbs 28:2 tells us that when there is moral rot within a nation, its government topples easy, and wise and knowledgeable leaders bring stability. Until we get that figured out, we're going to still have problems with all this other stuff. So would you pray with me, please? Father God in heaven, I just thank you so much for the privilege and the honor and the blessing of being here among these people and standing on this stage with these fine men. And I thank you, Father God, how you have brought us together for such a time as this, Lord God. Only you can make these wrongs right. Father God, forgive us. Forgive this nation. Forgive this state. Forgive me for being passive and quiet for far, far, far too long. And I pray, Lord God, that this travesty, this horrible sin called abortion would end. And Father God, that you would help us. Lord God, there's answers. These women who have had these abortions, Lord God, let them know that they're forgiven, and let them know to tell their story, Lord God, and help us as a state to turn around and look for other avenues such as abortion or such as adoption. And Lord God, that we can turn this around, we can glorify you with it. Father God, we find ourselves in what seems to be such a terrible state of disrepair. And Lord God, we turn that over to you, that the godly men and women will step up, that we will seek you out, and we will wait and depend on you for the answer. And Lord, I pray for open doors for these legislators in Chicago that as Tim mentioned, think so differently than we do. Lord God, help us that just to convey this message of love to them and your good news. Thank you for everyone here today. Thank you for the passion that exists here. Lord God, forgive us, save us, bless the great state of Illinois, bless this United States of America. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.